And then I've had a few emails now about the recent opinion ruling made against the city by the United States Magistrate Judge from the Medford Division. And I will tell you, a lot of those emails start out with the city. And I just want to make it clear, I'm not the city. We could stand up here and take a vote on like an opinion and a statement, and we could say that as a declaration unified, but I just can't, as even the title of the mayor, say this is what the city is stating. But I take from that maybe people want to know my stand on it, so I want to make it clear this is my personal stand on it and how I viewed it. And I also want to make this clear when I say this, that none of us, right, were a part of that whole process when it started. Some of us I came in about the meat of it towards the end of it, and then the rest, everyone else right at the end of it. So I actually didn't even participate in any testifying or anything, but I did have some information. So if you don't know, there was a ruling made against the city by the United States Magistrate Judge from the Medford Division about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, something like that. So I want to urge the community to take time to review the ruling. It's 22 pages in length, and there is some legalese in there, but you can figure it out. I have to say I was really taken back by it, especially not really going into it with a preconceived notion. And what I'm going to tell you again is my opinion, but the use of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, and more directly the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, was used to justify this opinion. This act is intended, if you don't know, to protect individuals, houses of worship, and other religious institutions from discrimination in zoning. While I was not a part of the original piece of this case, I reviewed the ruling and researched the case, and I feel that the city of Brookings clearly did not discriminate in their longstanding and unchanged zoning of the issue or area in issue. As a reminder, to discriminate means to make an unjust distinction in the treatment of different categories of people. Given the decade-long zoning that has existed since actually 1989 in that area, there was no discrimination done by the city in any way, shape, or fashion that I could see, in my opinion. While the building and the lot in question states they've been around in their current capacity since 1953, and the codes were not established until 1989, that wasn't the issue. The issue was the meal service, which were arguably started as early as 2009. After the zoning code was in place for 2 decades, I do not know how you could call that any type of discrimination. Why did the city take this issue up if in 2020-ish, since it had been in existence, the meal service since 2009? I think that's a fair question. The city, as a matter of operation, I've come to find out, usually functions to address issues on safety and complaints, especially zoning issues. Therefore, it appears the neighborhood did not see an issue to bring to the city for about a decade, until things became difficult in the neighborhood from that area and they started complaining. That said, once the complaints are issued and the issue is pressed, the zoning laws are the go-to rules that settle the matter. That's the law. Also in this ruling, you may be surprised, I was very surprised to see that verses from the Bible were used to support the judge's opinion. I will tell you they were taken way out of context. I will give you examples. Deuteronomy 15:11 was the first verse the judge cited. I urge all of you to read Deuteronomy 15. You will see it as a passage clearly given to the Israelite people of that time, and it tells the nation of Israel to cancel everyone's debt every 7 years and to have slaves for 6 years, but let them go for 7. He took a sentence out of the middle of that to support his decision, but I am happy he left the slavery piece out. Also, Matthew 25:37, this is a passage talking about entering heaven or burning in hell due to spiritual malnourishment and starvation. And Luke 3:11, John the Baptist is berating the self-centered religious brood of vipers. So I thought, well, let's do some verses in context. So what about Matthew 5:9 that says, blessed are the peacemakers? Or Romans 13:1, it says, let every person be subject to governing authorities. Or concerning the safety and well-being of the neighborhood you live in, how about Mark 12:31? You shall love your neighbor as yourself. There's not a greater commandment than these. Obviously, that was the second one. Or Leviticus 19:18. You shall take no vengeance or bear a grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I could go on. Furthermore, to work within the law and to assist those in the zoning with their pursuits, the city did initiate and carry out public sessions to look for alternatives to work within the zoning. In another act of clear non-discrimination and in hopes of meeting the zoning law while allowing for the desires of those looking to do an outreach, a decision was made that allowed for a free conditional use permit at no cost. All but one entity followed this agreement and instead initiated a lawsuit. In reading this judge's opinion, you will find that the zoning laws were only addressed to be argued against the RLUIPA, what I talked about earlier. Once a discrimination opinion was justified in this ruling, you will see the city ordinance itself was not even a consideration. As a nation based on laws, this opinion should concern every citizen, and that is why it concerned me so much. I say this often and will continue to say it. Who you vote for and who you support counts. Every time. Either way. To this, I say thank you to all those who do follow the law, knowing that it does not in any way prohibit or discriminate. Rather, it sets the norms and standards by which a society has to abide by. Moreover, thank you to those who feed the spiritual hunger that is clearly going on in our society right now, without question. Thank you to those who do not try to rewrite the norms and standards of our society. Thank you to those who are helping our young women, for example, in times of need for true options, love, and help through things like the Pregnancy Care Center. Thank you to the young people who work with the real discriminative laws on religious freedom. They continue to carry out Child Evangelism Fellowship. And many others doing spiritual work without pride, vitriol, but they do it in grace and love. And thank you.
With recent events unfolded, now is the time to reflect on one's actions and how they impact the greater community. For serving one's interest at the expense of others is a selfish endeavor. While recent events have indicated otherwise, common sense would indicate that serving the greater community is a more noble cause. My hope is that the opportunity to reassess how we impact those around us is not lost, and the acknowledgement that the lack thereof has created the issue in the first place. There are some in our community that are in need due to circumstances outside of their control. It is a noble cause to provide a hand up and empower them to make a change in their lives for the better. However, it should be acknowledged that there are a significant number of others who are in that situation by choice. Those who are unwilling to change or work, but instead prefer to live off of the goodwill of those hardworking individuals who get up every morning and do what needs to be done. Providing for those has become an industry funded by you and me. Providing for those unwilling to do what needs to be done, even though they are able, does not help. It enables and reinforces negative behavior. In fact, it has the opposite of the intended effect, in which they become dependent on services and have no self-worth. Self-worth does not come from a handout and dependency. It comes from working for the things you want out of life. I, like most people, value hard work, dedication, and service above all else. There is no greater person than the one that does what needs to be done to provide for their families and their community. I want to take this opportunity to honor those men and women and recognize them, for they are the backbone of this community.